I don't know.
No one knows. I don't know what's happening with my camera. I seem to be over to one side. I've got a really cheap computer. Can you see me okay?
Is this better? Like this? How's that?
Ah, there you go. I can see. Yeah. Okay.
Is that better? Is that better for you?
Yeah. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, no problem. I already clicked live, but nobody's coming in yet.
Cool.
Which is a bit strange. Oh, there's
You're
4.
busy today, huh?
Yeah, busier than we've been in a while. We'll do as many shows today as we did last week.
Wow.
It's the slowest week in 5 years.
Really?
So that would tell you a little bit about how I'm doing. Not bad, but just being able to, field what comes, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Cheryl
Exactly.
Benny. I'm just saying hi to Cheryl Benny, old friend. Yeah, it's you laughed when I asked you how it's going.
It's good. It's just crazy. So many kind of weird things keep happening, and now my hair's falling out, which is hilarious because we spoke about me being bald in my Syrian ass. Since then, my flipping hair's been falling out. So I don't know if we're returning to that or
Join
what.
the club. Join the club. Okay.
No way, you too.
Yeah, it's been going on for a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I realized that since I got back from Soulogy Fest in June, I've altered my schedule with Morgan in Australia, so I tend to stay up like a vampire, basically. And I haven't been getting sunlight. Now I just heard when I was driving down the road a couple of days ago, like, you haven't been getting any sunlight. Look at the association between that and hair loss. And,
okay.
And there was some, substance in what I found. So, I got some vitamin D pills and trying to go to bed earlier and get up and get out in the sun for 10 or 15 minutes. But I think it's bigger than that. I think that's just part of how it's playing out or being presented or experienced. Yeah. There just seems to be a lot of, Dr. Joe was just on and he had really 2 heart attacks. And
I know, right?
Yeah, and he talked about that, but he was at one point he was talking about how he basically understood through his communication or communion that he's being rejuvenated. Things are being reformed, and I feel the same way, and I've received the same. Specifically back in October when I caught COVID, and that 4 or 5 days, I kept getting that you're being there's a reformation taking place, and so I think there's some physical, there's some physical things that occur or that are occurring with our bodies that are, we're starting to see evidence of.
Yeah,
that's just my take on it, but
Well, when my hair's been falling out, it's strange because rather than freaking out about it, it almost feels like a relief. It's like a big shedding of because our hair carries a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I've talked to some others. I can think of. I won't mention the names because they may not be comfortable with it, but I'm talking about a couple of people. I can think of a couple of women that people would know in these communities. Normal people just like all of us that are probably at or about my age, 60. I just turned 60, and I had mentioned it on a couple of shows, and they said, yeah, hey, it's been happening to me, like so. And I have heard too that when it comes to what's been stored or what's been concentrated from our experience on Earth being held in the system of our hair or the follicles or whatever, as well as the teeth. So.
And the same. I know a lot of people that are experiencing it too, and everybody's got their own ideas about what it might be. But it was interesting because one of the first things when I tuned into my body, what is it, was I was just shown my galactic self again, and like, You don't have hair.
Really?
So, but I've been asking to keep it because I quite like, I like this human look with the hair. It's fun.
Yeah. Just give me a little bit at a time. Let it come out slow is what I've been
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. Not all at once.
But I think I've had that thought. And even recently I've had that thought of, God, obviously the earth is a melting pot of melting pots. I mean, it
Right.
really is. I mean, anything that, regardless of the narratives, the many narratives. I mean, if you get to the narratives and stories and myths and so on, not just of the earth, physical earth journey in vessels, so to speak, but the galactic, how this is just a melting pot of melting pots. And I'm just wondering, are we returning to some specific state that's the say the majority of our genetic ethnicity, if you want to put it that way? Maybe we're all going to be going back to our true state is something to that degree.
It's something that I've felt for a long time, but I really don't know the answer to. I think I might have said to you in the last conversation we had, I actually have seen my hands and arms turn like this iridescent blue a few years ago. So it was like kind of came in and came out again. But I know you've had quite a lot of this, haven't you, where you've sort of seen different aspects of Morgan.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. God, I was just thinking about that too. I was thinking about, it's funny. I was thinking about, so we had a divine union ceremony or marriage or whatever you want to call it. And we went to this hotel to just be alone and set up a business meeting. And so that was one of the nights that happened. I was thinking about this last night, and I was just laying down, and she was kind of like had her hand on my chest, and we were, just laying in bed. And yeah, she was showing me, without saying, showing me all these different aspects of her, and one of them looked like Callie, and like tongue was like half the face was black, half was white, and like this tongue was hanging out, and
Amazing.
I'm like, holy crap, But yeah, I mean, if that's happening, it's not just happening to us. I mean, it's who knows what we're headed for, what we're going to see as we allow ourselves to see these things, because I guess they're already there.
It's a frequency thing as well as with everything, isn't it? So some people will see it, some people won't be able to see it yet.
Yeah,
I guess
that's very true. Everybody knows. They probably get me tired of saying this. I love Robert Sepper, and because his all of his information is so factual. He doesn't try to present anything to persuade or dissuade anyone of a certain viewpoint of our history. But I remember watching recently one of his productions, and they were talking about civilizations in the Americas that were pre-indigenous, and all the fossil evidence and so on and so on. And some of the stories that were handed down through the indigenous tribes in their oral history, because that's how they pass on the information, just like the Aborigines. And they were talking about their interactions with these pre-indigenous civilizations as they were fading out and the indigenous American Indians were fading in, right? And one of the things that they said was, because sometimes they had like physical battles with them, those types of things came up. And one of the things they said was that one of these civilizations and one of these stories, one of these species, they were basically saying that they were interdimensional or other dimensional to this realm because you could only see them in their full physical form when they transitioned. Like once their body died, then they would physically materialize to the nth degree, where prior to that, there was, some visual, but it wasn't like, almost like a translucent or holographic is but they didn't go into detail. So, I mean, yeah, these things have been around while we walk the earth, many
Yeah.
things, many abilities. You can look at a lot of different things. There's an argument out there that maybe the pyramids weren't built by extraterrestrial star family. Maybe they were built by versions of us that were bigger and stronger and more intelligent. And I mean, there's just endless possibilities to what's coming to the surface and how that's going to affect our physical body and our physical experience.
Hmm. Funny as I have a pyramid, or can you see?
Yeah.
Wanted to come in for this. I can't make it.
You're good.
Yeah, wanted to join us for some reason. Yeah, I caught the end of your conversation with Dr. Joe, and you mentioned the giants.
Yeah,
I was
what's up
telling
with
my
that?
nieces about it.
Well, I'm thinking, what's up with that? I've been a history buff my whole life, and for some reason, in the last month, I have seen just an inordinate amount of videos and a couple of
Really?
articles here and there about the reality of these. I mean, just story after story in newspapers. All the fossils being taken by museums and never being seen again. No public scientific disclosure.
Yeah.
And I can just give a quick example. There was a indigenous tribe on the western United States that came into contact with these tall, red-haired, light-skinned, light-eyed giants, 7 to 9 feet tall. And again, this I think was a civilization that was kind of fading out as the
Where?
indigenous were expanding. Huh?
Did they say where?
Yeah, it was in the western United States, but they're all over. Like
I was
in the
going to
United
say
States.
Ireland. So I've been connecting to, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but the Tuatha De Danann, or they were a race called the Shining Ones
Yeah.
in Ireland. And there must be a connection there.
Well, Ireland, that's interesting you said that, because in Ireland, there's a big, almost like it's the beginning of it or something, because, Ireland has no trees. They've got these weird rock formations, look like giant trees that have been cut and so on. But in this case, it's just one of the hard evidence cases. There was an oral history in this tribe that talked about this interaction with these shiny ones, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the stories, or the way that the whole story or episode concluded, was that a group of these giants, I think it was it was a lot. I mean, I want to say it was like 200 or 300, and they ended up going into this cave that was part of the land of this tribe that they used specifically and that they were familiar with. Well, they went into the cave and they were trying to get them to come out so they could kill them, basically. And they wouldn't come out. And so what happened was they set a fire at the front of the cave and they wouldn't come out. So they either died from asphyxiation or burned. So anyway, they had told that story, and they had told that story. And at some point in the not too distant past, somebody came across the cave and found like 200-300 skeletons, and they went in. They got the skeletons and they cleaned it out, and no one's ever seen them again. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Why is that information being presented to us now? I was sitting with it last night when I was connecting, and just what I was getting was there's so much more than just Lemuria, Atlantis, Avalon, and so on. There literally were hundreds, or whatever the number is, of civilizations in this cycle, this continuous cycle, as I was receiving it, of ascension within each community, within each civilization, within each individual. And that, and I'm not saying this is the gospel. I'm just saying this is what I was picking up last night. And the fact that you bring it up there's no mistakes. But that, it's happening. It's always been happening. It's the same expansion of the soul cycle. And in particular here on Earth, it's front and center again in a really big way.
In a really big way, and I'm connecting to others that are tuning in on these shining ones right now, and it's all connected to Tara. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. I was told by, I have no idea who, I got the guidance to speak about Agartha and Schiehallion, which is a mountain in Scotland. That there's a portal there to I don't know if it's Agartha or inner Earth, you know, and that there's a bunch of these people, siblings there.
Yeah.
Because there's also, we have the Pictish people of Scotland, which you may or may not. Have you heard about those?
What is it?
The Pictish.
Yeah.
They were a race before the Celts.
Okay.
And apparently they disappeared without a trace, and nobody has any idea. You know, we've got all these scholars and scientists that have tried to figure out where they went. And then they came to me in meditation and told me that they had to remain hidden, so they've been hidden. And they went to Skye. There's a portal in Skye, and there's a portal in Schiehallion.
Well, I was just telling Dr. Joe about that. There's the same story in Central America of a tribe, and I remember specifically in the story was 3,000 or 4,000 people, and literally overnight they just disappeared. You know, I think that one of the things that really seems to be part of this expansion that we're going through is just the presentation of information that in itself, it opens code in all of us, which you know lends itself to what is occurring a lot, particularly with women, in my opinion, and that's stepping up and sharing their experience of their communication with infinite intelligence, the information they get, as well as you know stuff specific to what's going on right now, regardless of how inconsequential it might seem. There's code in everything in a really big way right now. So I don't know why this is happening now, but I've been researching, you know, pretty consistently since 2013, and I haven't seen this level of dissemination of this type of story specific to previous civilizations, and even more specific to our vessels being much bigger than they are now. Yeah, so there's got to be a reason for this.
It's because it's time. Like when I got this information about Schiehallion, it was like I haven't been able to talk about a lot of things, but I didn't actually know. You know, I hadn't remembered anything, and it's like all of a sudden, bam! It's coming back online.
Right.
And I'm having like this force just going, now, get it out now. You know, so it is, and I'm, like I say, it's happening with so many people that I'm connected to as well.
Yeah. You mentioned, you sent me a message, and I just said what I said in the message because the energetic proposition of the day with the interfacing on these shows is becoming more and more of a thing. I'm not saying it's more complicated, but I thought, you know, we did a show together. Let's just do this one together and you know, build it a little bit more. But you mentioned in that message about working with children. And I do a lot of shows, obviously, and I'm going through what everybody else is going through, and I can't remember everything. And I don't remember talking to you about that before, if so, not in depth. And I could be wrong. I just having a memory lapse. But
didn't come up in the last conversation.
It didn't. Okay, so you're doing work with children, which I think is something that's significant. The children, the younger people, as Patricia Cutter-Robles was talking about, those that were born after the harmonic resonance in 1987, and what they're bringing to the table, and specifically what they're bringing to the table, or what she's forecasting in 2022 as they really start to emerge as a frequency that's going to impact the collective field in a way that we haven't seen, from what I can pick up from her. But how did you get into the work with the children? What age range? What are you doing with them? How long it's been going on?
So this began this summer, I think it was, just gone, hang on a minute, when I was still in Scotland, so it would have been around March time. And it was the teenage daughter of a good friend of mine that came to visit me. And I was just sat next to her teenage daughter, and she is one of these children. I think she's 13 now. And I just received this very clear telepathic message from her. You need to start a group for children, for us children, and a gathering. And I didn't know what it was, but I just know when we talked about this before, when the messages come in, I just know when I'm to act. So I did. I started this group for children. It's called Conquers Children, a New Earth community, and it's basically we connected to. We've had people from Mexico, Australia, the States, mostly in the UK at the moment because it's just myself and my partner in light, Petra, and Andromeda Rose. I work with her. And we ran it for about 16 weeks, where every week, every Wednesday in the UK, we would gather the children and they would, talk about whatever they wanted to. And it would be, it would cover chakras, energy, crystals, spirit animals, whatever they wanted to talk about. And they can go into real depths of these.
And you're talking about these kids. Is that what
yeah. So ages range from 6 to 16.
And how many would be in a typical meeting? What, 3 or 4?
We had about, the most we had at the time was about 8, I think it was.
Yeah. I mean, that's significant. So what kind of things were they saying in regard to animal totems and the other things that you brought up?
They can go. We've got this one little girl. She's amazing. She's 9, and she identifies with. And so she wrote out a story for us, which she read to the group, to the other children, of her, day in a life of being a wolf.
Holy shit.
It's just amazing, Todd. Really amazing.
So are they coming to, I mean, this is fascinating. So are they coming to the group to be instructed, or the subjects brought up to them, such as chakras? Are they coming saying, hey, I've got some information on the chakras. It just came to me, or I've got this relationship with my wolf spirit. I just want to share it. And you've created this space where you and your collaborators, where they're safe to do that.
A bit of all of that. So the wolf girl, she drew a picture of a wolf and she colored in in different stripes, and she literally got every color spot on where all the chakras are. So that's when Petra and I looked at each other and said, okay, we'll do, we'll cover chakras and see how they respond to that. Other weeks we would suggest a topic each week. We would also, some weeks we would do a little meditation all together, all of us. But the biggest thing about it is just for them to connect to others that are like them, that they are completely free to express themselves as they feel to, as they want to, and not have it shut down, because we know what our schools are like at the moment.
Wow, that's pretty wild. Did you record them?
No, just out of respect for the children. But
I get that. I was just curious.
Well, a couple of the children are really keen to come on and do a show with us. So maybe if you feel to at some point.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think that's a big part of what we need to see, no doubt. Is I was saying this last week on the show. I mean, we've got some pretty thorough, I think, demographic information in the Soulogy network on the different platforms, and you got to spend some time putting them all together. But one of the things I looked into last week, because I was trying to figure out, I don't know, I was trying to figure out some things, but the demographics of 18 to, I think, 25 was basically non-existent. And I have to believe that Soulogy network is going to be a reflection of these light workers, starseed community type of things. And I think that for that energy to start mixing with the older folks, I think that would be, it'd be interesting, because my experience with and I don't know what the number is, maybe 15, 18 people that, let's just say, were 25 or younger, been on the show. I think we've had one as young as 9.
Wonderful.
That has their explanation of their experience is worded a little bit different than ours. Like with ours, there's a lot of talk about Mother Mary and Saint Germain and galactic family and things like that, dragons and such. But the kids seem to be, the ones that I've come across tend to be, so to speak, speaking to the one voice of the goddess, or God or source. Their experience seems to be less verbal. It's more, you can feel it, you can see it and touch it. It's more of an energetic thing.
It is.
And it's
Yeah.
such a different kind of thing than what we're used to, I guess, because we've been more conditioned, and we just have a different perspective. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Do any of them talk about galactic experiences or anything like that?
Yeah, some have memories of being a goddess. There's one beautiful girl, and she's really connected to sort of ancient Greece, and just obsessed with anything related to that, and she can tell you everything about it. Another is really connected to being like her mermaid self. It's very much, sort of nature spirits. There's a lot of that. It's what many people would try and tell as fairy tale, but it's really not. It's really not. They're here.
Yeah. One of the programs I was watching this past week was talking about because of the I guess the influx or the more public offerings of archaeological and anthropological findings that have been, because of the internet, that have been put out there more, that there's been kind of a good pressure put on the scientific community, where it's starting, because of the information, such as giants or such as early technologies that we thought we invented, or even technologies that we can't figure out, like how did you build a pyramid and build these monoliths, that science is starting to look at the myths and the fairy tales, I guess, that came from the myths, because there's some relevance, or there's an apparent correlation between what's being found in physical evidence and what has been passed on as myths and fairy tales and all that. That's true.
I'm much more inclined to head to those places for my truth than anything mainstream. I've been for years. And we have one boy as well that has like literal X-ray vision.
Really?
He can see metal buried beneath the ground. He can tell you exactly where things are. He's found jewelry, money. Yeah. And then
how do you I'm just curious, how did you find these kids to come in?
We started a group on Facebook, and we put the call out, and so both Petra and myself were sharing about our work on our own pages, and then gradually people, more and more parents began to find us, and sharing stories with us about their children and how magic they are. Wow. But also how much they struggle, being in the world and being in these schools. They're literally, the children now are just shutting down the schooling system as we've known it.
Yeah, very true.
Their energy, their consciousness is like, nah, I'm not doing this. And I also have my own 6-year-old self kind of leading this and working with them. My child self. She's really coming forward, and she, delighted that we're actually doing this work because she hated school.
So how is your 6-year-old aspect showing up? I mean, it sounds like a pretty, a pretty prominent scenario, not just like a come and go. I worked with my inner child and worked that out and brought equilibrium, and it'll come up now and then. It sounds like it's pretty prominent right now.
Yeah, just in the way of how we operate this, how we do this, how we connect to the children. You know, years ago, I think this was about 3 years, Todd. I was 3 or 4 years ago. I received a message that I will be starting a school. And, you know, as with all the messages, I'm like, no, that's not happening. I barely went to school. How can I start a school, you know? But I think that's the point. And it's this school is to be child-led learning. Everything led by the children. And you see when they all get together how they, you know, one will share something and that will spark something in the others, and on it goes. But so yeah, my child self really comes through. Just we're all equal. Like for example, I was chatting to you a little bit about beloved B Joy. You know, B Joy's 78 years young, and she has this very strong, clear image of me being her grandmother. You know, and I'm 42, so nothing is as it seems anymore. Nothing.
Right, right. And she's a good example too, because I remember when I got to know her, there was a lady who put up a post in the Soulogy group, and she said, I never, you know, post anything. I'm here, and I've been here for a couple of years. And she starts telling this story, and I think it had to do with her husband gets a jab or doesn't get a jab, and there were some ramifications from whatever that was. But it was really a heart-opening appeal, a vulnerability and authenticity, and an appeal for, hey, does anybody have anything to offer here? And 900 comments later, I mean, it was a profound thing to be a part of. But anyway, B Joy, she ended up, as a result, just like one of those kids, like say that lady was a kid that said, hey, I want to share this. Then she sparked it in B Joy. Then B Joy came out and said, hey, I've been watching this stuff for a couple of years, and I got these questions, and here's been my, you know, and it just started this whole domino effect. So that's, and then the other thing that comes to mind too, you know, we just had Patricia Cota Robles on December 8th, which has about 22,000 views just on YouTube. I think it's probably got about 50 on the platform altogether. But it keeps coming into, and I keep looking at it going, what is going on with that? And it's like people are ready for it now. They're ready for this information. I mean, she's been doing this since the 60s, and then other people 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. But in regard to the kids, I mean, it's like she said that in 2022 that we would see the rising of this collective frequency, this portion of the collective, which would be represented by these young people. And I don't know if she said it would happen in 2022. And again, this is a prognostication through her own infinite connection with infinite intelligence. And take what you want. But she said that at some point that the kids or these young people would be doing the teaching and leading the way. So it falls right in line with what you're
amazing.
Yeah.
I remember being 6 years old and sitting in class and receiving a message. This was before I went back to sleep again, but that I remember just looking around, just going, what is this world? It's just, everything just seemed really strange to me, really strange. And then this voice came, and I was sat in class, and it was like, you are here. There's going to be a huge change in the world as we know it, and that's why you're here. That's why we're here. And one day it will make sense. And now we're in this time. I can feel that 6-year-old aspect of me. Just, she's so excited because
really?
I know we're here. We're definitely here now.
Well, I wonder, there must be some type of connection between your 6-year-old self coming in the door at the same time that, you know, this is evidently occurring, of what Patricia talks about and what you're talking about. That's interesting, because I know that you know, a lot of us have been talking about the different things that have happened, and one of the things that I know has been happening for me has been this reconnection with Todd at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And like, for instance, going back, and not so much a memory, but more of like, almost like embodying myself at that time.
Yeah.
And these things that were in my head, which were, and quite literally, I love everybody.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
happy. I like to
Yeah.
go play in the backyard by myself with my imaginary friends or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like a bliss frequency.
Yeah.
But then also at some point, that disruption coming in of, say, it's your parents fighting, or just ugly stuff you see and going, man, this doesn't make any sense. Like, but a real distinction between, you know, before and after. And I
Yeah.
just wonder, I wonder if other people are experiencing, in their own way, what you're experiencing with this revisitation or this reemergence of the 6-year-old.
Mm. Yeah, and recently I've been getting a lot more of that again as well. That's returning, that feeling of I just love everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like almost like a Labrador puppy, you know. I just want to run up to everybody and, you know, and find out about them and ask them questions and hug them. And it's this it's a joyful energy coming back through.
Yeah.
It's not there every day, but.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have talked about, specifically, October was a pretty big month. I mean, there was some pretty big stuff happening, clearing and so on. And of course, 11/11, and then you got 12/12, and I think we had an eclipse, didn't we? Somewhere, two eclipses somewhere in there. And now it's solstice. Happy solstice. Thank you for coming on today. But
I can't believe you're talking now.
Yeah. So what have the last few weeks been like for you? Have you had any moments of I don't know how to say it, where chaos meets creation or whatever? Where you're just having
no, I think I went through my chaos. I think I've been. I hope I have, because Jesus, there was enough of it. But no, the past few weeks have been blissful, and I've been seeing, so many people on Facebook and talking about how hard they're finding it, and my heart goes out to anyone going through it. But I've just been like, just grateful that everything's been fine. And then on the 12/12, suddenly I had to paint. I had to paint for the first time really ever. And then, in came a giant sun disk and Uluru and the Pleiades and
yeah, you mentioned that too. You mentioned that in the message. And I know today, or I guess it would have been yesterday because they're a day ahead of us. There was a Uluru specific meditation, which I know had taken place last year. I think we had Evan Phillips, or I can't remember their names, father and son, that were really involved with the Uluru indigenous that kind of hang out in that area, and some of the prophecy of it and so on. But were you getting anything that's you feel like is substantial or worth mentioning in regard to these the information in regard to Uluru and the Pleiadians and such?
Only that I suddenly had to paint, and it had to be in the style of Aboriginal dot art. And the first thing that came through was a big golden sun disk, which I've seen through a vision of Lemuria. And I painted that, and then straight away after that came through Uluru, and it had to be painted in gold. And then while I was painting that, I heard Seven Sisters, so I painted that in. But that was just, to me, confirmation that's, I don't know, something had activated or opened. I mean, I was taken to live there in 2004 with the Anagu people, the sacred guardians of Uluru, for 3 months. I was a dental nurse back then.
Wow.
So, yeah, they have there's 9 communities on the Anagu Pitjantjatjara lands out there. And I just managed to get a position working there. It was all set up, when I mean, I could tell you the whole story, but it's quite long. But yeah, so I was taken to live there 3 months, and profound. So it's so profound that I haven't integrated everything
Really?
that happened. You know, there was a bushfire that I slept through, and it kind of tore through. I had like this little hut that I was living in, and it, you know, burnt everything all in my garden, like my gazebo and everything. And I just remember having this very lucid dream of this Aboriginal elder man with a loincloth and a big stick just stood watching over me, silver hair, all night long. And then when I woke up, my covers were on the floor, you know, so I must have been a bit hot. But yeah, and then I went outside and saw that everything was black.
You got to be kidding me.
So I don't know if I traveled through something then. Yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah.
I thought
And
you were
so-
going to say I thought like it was a lucid dream, but you actually had, there was a physical bushfire, and that basically occurred while you slept in this protected tent with this guardian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know if he was an aspect of me or what, you know, why was I taken to live there? I still don't know that yet. But yeah, on the 12th, it was Uluru, so strong coming in.
And I think Morgan was telling me, I think it was Morgan telling me yesterday, Uluru is the solar chakra of the world. Something like that.
Solar plexus, I think.
Solar plexus.
Yeah. So, okay, so that would make sense why I had to paint a big sun disk over it then.
Solar,
I guess.
okay. Power.
Yeah.
Power coming online. Yeah. God, sure. I mean, you know, I know we've said this before, but it sure feels like, you know, we're obviously in it, you know. I mean, but it sure feels like since sometime between, you know, October 11/11, 12/12, I mean, somewhere along the line here, there's a whole different reality. And it, like these kids coming up, or you having a individual experience like with this Uluru thing and painting, which I got to ask you something about that. But they're like little hints coming in at a gradual pace, you know, a graduation that we can handle, graduated template. This, like in the case with the painting, you mentioned there's a style that you good?
Sorry, Todd, 1 second. My niece is going, she has to go to bed, and I was in her bedroom.
Oh, that's no problem. It's not a problem.
But sorry about that.
No, it's not a problem. So this situation with the painting, you mentioned that there's a specific way that the Aboriginals painted. You said something, okay. Did you have any knowledge of that before you started painting?
Yeah, because where I was living there was an art centre called Ernabella Art Centre, I think it's called. And so I would visit the artists there a lot and really admired their work. So yeah, I've always loved that style of painting. You know, it's so vibrant. There's so much, as you call, code in them. You know, there's just so much in their paintings. Can you see me okay? Sorry, it's quite dark in here.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
But had you ever painted before?
No.
You'd never painted before. Okay.
No, I mean, might have done as a kid, but it's not something that I've been a big no.
Not by your own accord.
No. And on the 12th, I just had to paint. It was like I had to paint that day. Yeah.
Sounds like maybe you were having a flashback to a previous incarnation in Uluru. But definitely sounds like you were anchoring something.
I think so, yeah, because what I was hearing was, What
you were hearing?
I was just hearing I am Uluru. I don't know if it was the energy of the rock, but I think it's I haven't remembered that much yet. But I'm sure there'll be people that might be listening to this, you know, because they'll be here for a reason.
Yeah.
Who can help us connect some dots.
What about your like your human interactions
Mm.
over the last 2 or 3 months. Has that changed at all? How you're communicating, what's happening, the time you spend with yourself or don't, the way you speak to people? Some people have been talking about how they're becoming more direct without, that may seem a little rude in this new, like quantum experience versus our old patterns. I mean, have you noticed any change in human relations from your own, sphere of experience?
In mine, like I don't go out very often, but I was out on Sunday, and I took myself out for lunch, and I just had that child playful self was out to play, that wanted to make friends with everyone, and I had everyone I encountered, like every waiter, I would give them a genuine compliment, something that I liked about them or something I appreciated about them. And I could see that I was just going around lifting these people, they were kind of like shoulders down, and then they would lift. And it was just like these lights going off. And I felt like I had just so much energy and light surging through me. And there was even one guy that was just, he became like my protector. If you need anything, you come and see me, Yeah, it's just everything's getting so much lighter, isn't it? It's definitely lighter and brighter, and people are kinder. I did have a little incident when I was on the train down here to visit my sister. Everyone on the train had masks on. I didn't. And then there was one young girl saying, "Can you believe these people that don't wear masks?" And it's like you just gotta.
So is it supposed to be mandatory if you get on a public transit that you're supposed to wear a mask?
They're saying over here that you must wear a mask unless you wear. So I am exempt.
There you go. Yeah.
In the shops, they ask you to, and you just say I am exempt, and they go, okay, off you go.
Really?
We are free. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are free.
As free as you want to be, right? So I heard yesterday from this beautiful couple we had a show with last night that there was almost 1 million people in Parliament Square this past weekend. You're in Ireland, right? You're in Ireland. Are you
No, I'm in
seeing any
England
type
now.
of? Oh, you're in England. Okay. Have you
Yeah,
seen any type? Have you seen any type of expressions like that when you've been out traveling around? Have you seen
No,
any?
I haven't been out, but yeah, I've got friends who do attend these rallies and
Okay.
these, so they kind of, I see what they're up to, and I don't feel any need to kind of get involved in any of that now, because I know it's all done. I'm all about the creation, but yeah, it's definitely happening. It is. It's all falling apart. We had our prime minister.
I'm with you there.
Talking about
What do you mean? What do you mean? I think I know what you mean, but I just want to get some clarification. What do you mean by it's already done? It's already done.
The old is already gone. We literally it's just a matter of everything, all the new that we've all been dreaming for so long is all vibrating in, which in my own personal reality, I'm already experiencing it. I'm seeing higher dimensional colors when I am out and about. It's beautiful, really beautiful. And the interactions I have with people are just pure heart, so heart-based, everywhere I go. And so when people say, oh, they're falling out with various family members from different things, oh, here we go. The light has returned.
Let there be light. What about I know Dr. Joe was talking about his own ordeal with this over the last few weeks, but he was saying one of the effects that occurred was a real shift or expansion in everything that we've been coming into, such as telepathy, intuition, his sensitivities and skills, abilities. Have you experienced any of that?
Yeah. I can tell when I'm with people, even strangers now. I can tell if something's needed to be said or done, or how to give you an example of that. Like I say, when I took myself off out for lunch, you know, I can tell with certain people. Like one guy was being very jolly and cracking jokes with people, and people were so down about everything that, you know, they weren't quite getting it. So I just told him that I really appreciated his terrible jokes. But that made all of his colleagues laugh, you know, and then it just kind of lifts things. But that's empathy. Yeah, I know what Dan's thinking. Got it, you know. I can read him like a book.
Who?
Dan.
Your partner?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw a picture of the two of you on your profile.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned it a little bit last time. You know, we're Morgan's actively pursuing couples that want to talk about their journey together. You know, so you might get a message from her.
I did.
God,
I did mention it to him, but he's not ready yet.
Oh, I did mention it then already. God, you just mentioned something. Oh, yeah, like what you're describing, I picked up from other women, and I have to say, since October, there's probably been 5 or 6 men that have kind of shown up, and it's not so much the men as it is the energy of this masculine that's starting to come out. You might call it divine masculine. But what I'm saying is what I've picked up mostly from these women is, I guess you're helping me to verbalize it, which is, it's almost like the women's intuition frequency, which obviously we all have, but I mean, for some reason, the feminine incarnated have had it, otherwise it wouldn't be called that. But I see it almost like it wasn't followed. There wasn't enough confidence. I mean, there was obviously suppression and all that, but it's starting to come out and be followed. And that to me kind of sums up, after listening to you and reflecting on those few men and so many women, that's starting to dictate or be the you know, like the steering wheel of the experience.
Well,
Like,
for my own experience with that is I came in very much in my masculine. You know, I was a classic tomboy for most of my life until the Magdalene woke up in me in 2019. And then I had to get to know my feminine. I didn't know my feminine because I was used to kind of, you know, just being very driven in everything that I do. And then suddenly, okay, I've got to get used to this flowing. What's this flowing? I didn't know how to do that. And my work sometimes just take me to work with men. And I think that's how I can do it, because I know I am one.
yeah.
And Joe was talking about, you know, being androgynous. You know, of course we all are. Yeah,
but I get what you're saying. I mean, since I met Morgan in 2015, that's something she said repeatedly, because I had the same kind of attitude as Joe. I was like, hey, I'm not any of that. I'm all of that, right? Like, but she'd say, yeah, but there's a reason I was born in a woman's body and you were born in a man's body.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. And as time's gone on, and again, there's no mistakes. I mean, this was in my field yesterday, regarding the physical experience of a truer reality, one that is in place, let's just say, in our aspects in their higher dimensional experiences. So you can call it embodiment or whatever you want to call it, but the importance of, you know, for instance, like the downloads that she's received in regard to these couples, and it's not limited to couples. It's not making the couples any more or less important. It's just one early, if not the earliest, physical representation of the divine union within ourselves that's starting to have
you know, be mirrored in our physical experience. So yeah, I think that the genders, and I resisted it, but yeah, I can see it now. I mean, there's something about getting closer to that level of balance within yourself that allows you to really fulfill the role of the gender that you're carrying in the physical as almost like as an example or an emulation of what we have done within ourselves and how things are made up in equilibrium.
And the ones that I know that I'm blessed to be connected to are really, really connected to their feminine and not afraid of it. They're just beautiful. And Dan's one of them. I would say that a lot of the time, you know, I'm more the man, he's more the woman in our relationship, even though, you know, he certainly doesn't look feminine. He's very, very, very sensitive, you know, and he's very.
I think there's I'm sorry. There's a lag.
No,
go ahead. Oh, you know, that's a really profound statement. To me, it is. I know that the level of sensitivity with the incarnated man is at the same level as his counterpart, if not even more so. And I'm not politicking one way or the other. What I'm trying to say is that I think what a lot of probably the vast majority of the projections of the physical man, you know, given a patriarchal and years and years and years embedment of the cultural aspects of it, has been rooted in this sensitivity that we haven't disclosed. So it's become an ultra sensitivity. Like I had to learn that, for instance, with Morgan. I remember early on, because she's so blunt and direct, which is the frequency of that intuition. You know what I mean? So she might say something, and it came into my attention to myself, that the other person, regardless of whether it was her or not, had no idea how sensitive I was.
No.
But I didn't, right? So it kind of brought me to that point. So I think that what you're talking about with Dan is something that, and what I've seen with the 6 or 7 that I was talking about that have come on since October, this kind of came out of nowhere, and they all came out at the same time, and they all had very similar characteristics to a lot of the women that are stepping up and have been stepping up over the years. So yeah, there's something to be said for that, and I guess there would be a little bit of a role exchange as it comes into equilibrium and the pendulum swinging back and forth. Yeah. So
How has it been for you, like with doing Soulogy? Do you have, like, what's your quota of men to women that have come on? Do you
Well, when we started out, that's a good question. I was just mentioning this on the last show, but when we started out, and I started to pay attention when I came off the streets, because it was a couple years established, but then again, there was only 1,500 people. You know, there's, I think, hard numbers like 115,000 now, and so many more, like 30% more, that aren't in on the platforms officially, but come in every week. But back then, it was about anywhere from 5 to 8%, and this would be 2014, of men. Now, depending on what platform I look at, but if I had to just like draw an average, I'd say it's probably about 30% to 35% men. And so it's expanding. And the other thing that's starting to show itself
and this percentage is probably 3 or 4%, are the people that are 18 to 25. So those two things are occurring. And the one thing I do notice about what little we're capturing in the metrics as far as the 18 to 25 group, and even the 25 to 35 group, is the percentage of men is disproportionate to the numbers I just gave you. So they're more adequately represented in these new factions of the young people and the younger existing people of 25 to 65 are men, which is cool. That's cool.
Fantastic. Well, I've since 2016, I've been running this little small sisterhood, private sisterhood group on Facebook. And then earlier this year, I got, right, it's time. Well, it was actually a couple of years ago. It's time to open up to our men now. But I didn't feel it was quite right for the other sisters in there. Recently, I just said, are you ready? And we did. So we're now 7% men to 93 women, 9% women. And we're about, it's only small, it's only like 300 and something in there. But yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's and I will say this too, the numbers are changing rapidly. Like, we didn't go on YouTube in earnest until 2 years ago. And so we had like 200 people subscribed. Now there's 11,000, and 1,000 of those have come on in the last month. So that's not a normal pattern from the previous 10 years or whatever. So
1,000 in the last month.
1,000 out of 1,000 out of 11,000 have occurred in the last month, the last 28 days. Now, that same influx or surge I've seen in other parts of the platform, but I think probably the best example, because YouTube, every one of the platforms has a different audience. There's not a lot of overlap like you might think. Like, for instance, in Facebook, Soulogy One Studios page, there's 25,000 on the page. And in the group, there's 40 some odd thousand. There's probably 1,500, 2,000 people that are on both, right? So YouTube is very unique because it's off of the Facebook platform. Yeah. We hadn't been involved with it near as long. And when we first, and it's a different type of audience. The audience on YouTube tends to be less social, obviously, because there's not a platform for that other than having conversations during a show. It seems to be coming a little bit more from a fact-finding, non-social, learning type of approach. And the numbers of men to women were much different, because 2 years ago, it'd be like 3 or 4 or 5% men on YouTube. And just to give you an example, then that number's, obviously changing. I think it's probably more like 80-20. But if you look like Morgan and I did a show this past weekend, and I went to check specifically, because I do that, to check the metrics when there's, depending on the type of show, and there was 35% men. So here was a presentation of both frequencies, both gender frequencies, and there's something to be said for that, that more men tuned in, and it wasn't just all women. So there's something going on, and it seems to be happening very rapidly.
Yeah.
The silence says a lot.
Yeah,
more than
it will move fast. It's going to move fast. Because a few years ago, I received guidance again that you're to work with men, and I was like, but how? What am I supposed to do? Just, do you agree or not? Sure, why not? And then my message, crazy with messages from men from all around the world. I pulled out, I chickened out, so I still don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of those personal the personal guidance and transmissions are they're. I don't know. To me, it feels a little bit different the way things are coming in. It's a lot less verbal, if you will, but it just seems like it's kind of the same old thing, getting louder and louder and louder. So I think that's part of the reason more and more people are stepping up. Who is? You're frozen. Are you there? You're having issues. Test, test, test. Okay, we're good. It's all good. Can you hear me? No.
Yeah.
Well, we've got. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No worries. Here, I'm going to send you a note. Just tell me if you can hear me. So, can you? Obviously, you can't hear me.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I froze. You froze for me. Yeah.
Are you back? Are you back? Can you hear me? No, you can't. So the signal is going haywire. So oh, you can hear now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Have we short circuited?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a massive lag. Yeah. So we're going to check out. We've been on an hour and 6 minutes anyway. So it's all good. We'll get Lisa back on here. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think you can hear me. So we'll see if we can get Lisa back on. Oh, you can.
You're frozen.
I think it's a big lag. So we'll cut it off. Yeah, we'll see if we can get Lisa on here again.
You can hear me
2022 and on.
Yeah, I can.
We'll see if we can get Lisa and Dan on too.
Yeah.
That would be good.
And
we'll see if we can get you on with some of these young people as well. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. We just got some fairy interference or.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That'll be fun, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you later.
I'd love to.
You take care, and we'll be back.
I don't know. I think I don't know
we'll be
happened.
back. It's no big deal. We will be back in what? We will be back in 2 hours and 14 minutes with Joanne Palladino. And thank you a lot, Lisa. Love you. Best to you and Dan. Thank you for what you're doing.